many brothers I be sparking and busting, man, like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just a brother for the rapture. I hang live, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifested. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my sacred life.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generation, the manga. And for anime only fans, this is the time of the month where a lot of the content that we cover on the channel is going to be spoiler related, or it's going to be speculation that borrows on spoilers. So I thank you for your support. However, with all that being said, if you're still here, I'm assuming that you guys are all caught up with the manga and you don't care about spoilers. So I think that we need to have a real conversation about Boruto Uzumaki awakening the Jougan in the actual manga. And I think that when you look at how Boruto awakened the Jougan in the actual anime, that there is something that you can actually use to have this eye essentially be woken up in a way that keeps everything in line. And the way that you actually do this is take a look at what's going on in the manga right now. So we have the threats that are building up in the actual background. We know that Boruto and Kawaki, that clash is coming to the point where they are going to be fighting on top of the Hokage monument. The artists for the Boruto manga has already said that we're getting closer and closer towards the actual time skip. You have the threat of Code, you have the threat of Eida, the threat that there are potentially more cyborgs out there that can be woken up. We know that Code is on that path of progression to where Code is trying to realize Isshiki Otsutsuki's dream, which is to become an Otsutsuki clan god. And the way that that ties into Boruto's Jougan awakening is we know that Boruto is being given these Byakugan pills that are meant to suppress the Otsutsuki genetics inside of him. And one thing I've seen a few people actually talk about is the fact that, like, hey, we could have a scenario to where those Byakugan pills, those inevitably one awakens his Jougan. And I would say that that would be interesting if you kind of go that route and just take the stance of, but on one hand it suppressed the Byakugan eye, but on the other hand suppressing that Byakugan inside of Boruto inevitably woke up the Jougan. But I want to actually go back and I want to look at what you actually had in the Boruto series. When you go back to the Academy arc, when you look at the novelization, which if I'm not mistaken, Ukyo Kodachi actually wrote the novelization for the Boruto anime. So in that time, in the novelization, it was directly stated that Toneri prematurely awoke Boruto's Jougan because Toneri sensed that Nue's dimension was active and that Nue was a real thing. And essentially Toneri did this as a way to kind of step in without the main branch of the Otsutsuki clan becoming aware of what he was doing. So the key word in all this is that he prematurely awoke Boruto's Jougan, which means that that was an eye in Boruto's genetics that was going to wake up at some point in the actual story. Toneri just did it in the premature aspect. And the reason why that Boruto novel, I believe it's Boruto novel 2 or it's Boruto novel 3, the reason why that's so important to kind of look at is that, like I said before, Boruto had the potential to awaken the Jougan. Toneri just did it prematurely, and I think that if you go the route of just like how Kakashi wasn't able to actually consciously use the Mangekyo Sharingan until after the time skip, you could do that with Boruto, where Boruto can't actually consciously use the Jougan until sometime after the time skip. And see, the thing about the Jougan is that it's a specific doujutsu that Toneri helped Boruto awaken, and part of the reason why is that it's a doujutsu that was stated to be inherited by the ancient Otsutsuki clan, which we all know Boruto has genetics of. Boruto has a mother who received Hamura's chakra, and Naruto received Hagoromo's chakra. So there is the potential that maybe mixing those two chakras together is something that could have actually worked, and that's why Boruto is so different, because Boruto is the firstborn child. But the thing is that it's going to be very likely very important to the future of the story, because Boruto was flat out prophesized to have the fate of the shoulder of the world on his shoulders. And the thing about the Otsutsuki is that we know that at least one of them, and if you count Toneri, at least two of them are able to see see some aspects of the future. Toneri specifically awakened Jogon to help Boruto deal with the New Age situation. He did it prematurely, but when you look at what is also stated later on, Toneri also says that we're in a situation where he says the Jogon's time will not be coming for a long time now. So we've had some considerable distance since that was actually stated, but Toneri has clearly shown you that he's able to actually see into the future. Maybe not on the same level as somebody like Momoshiki, but Momoshiki and Toneri are two Otsutsuki that we've seen who are actually able to have some form of being able to see the future. And now we have a character in Eida who's able to see all things that have happened in the past up to the point in her lifetime. Too much of that stuff is seemingly starting to kind of start slipping together. The way that the abilities work, they're too similar at this point. We know Amado has all this information about the Otsutsuki clan, and I highly doubt that a power like that, the Senrigan, is not something that could potentially be revealed as some type of Otsutsuki connection as well. I think that's something that Isshiki likely knew about, told Amado about, and Amado, through some kind of science or maybe something with Eida's own body, we don't know specifically, but that could be some type of a derived doujutsu that has connection to the Otsutsuki as well, which could be a good segue into the actual Jougan, because again, we have two characters that can actually see into the future, and now we have a new character who can see all events that happened in the past. So essentially, literary wise, we have the past, present, and future all clashing. And this would also explain why Isshiki was so adamant that Eida be shut down and not be allowed to live, why Isshiki was stating that she needed to be destroyed. Boruto has the power in one eye with the Jogon, that we've seen how characters that can see the future have seen Boruto's eye, and now we have somebody in Eida. This could be something to where the Jogon is the right eye of the ancient Otsutsuki, and Eida's Senrigan could be something that is the doujutsu power of the Otsutsuki clan's left eye. That could be something that you could actually play with right there. Then I think that the resurgence / the debut of the Senrigan could be a good way to actually segue into the Jogon. But going back to the whole thing about prophecy and why that's so important, Momoshiki says that Boruto's eyes will take everything from him, and then you have Toneri who says that Boruto is the star of hope that is going to end up saving the world. So you have two different interpretations of a prophecy revolving around Boruto. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see how they actually kind of use that. But I do think that he's going to be the pinnacle of power that's going to be above the shinobi and above the Otsutsuki when he does consciously awaken the Jogon. And the fact that Urashiki was freaking out when he saw it and was basically saying, I've got to kill this brat, I think that that is something where you got to kind of actually play around with that right there. Now, if I'm also not mistaken, I also believe that in Boruto Novel 3, it was directly confirmed that Toneri could actually see the actual future. So that's going to be interesting to see if maybe there's a way to actually connect that in there. Because we're counting down to that moment that Toneri said that the Jogon's time is still a ways away, whether or not using Eida as a way to actually have that eye actually be awakened or not, whether or not that's actually the route that the story actually goes, that really depends. But I do think that we're at a situation where, because we're getting closer and closer to that time skip, it does offer up a few opportunities for you. Number one, it offers up the opportunity for you to kind of revisit the same thing that Kishimoto did with the character Kakashi, where the whole time throughout part one, Kakashi had possession of the Mangekyo's Sharingan and didn't actually know that he had the Sharingan because he had no conscious memory of awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan when Rin Nohara died. So I think you can kind of do something slightly similar, because Boruto does know about the actual Jogon. A lot of people forget this, but the anime and manga, they run parallel to one another. The anime just fleshes out things that the manga doesn't touch on. That's how a character like Sumire and the Hidden Miss Field Trip arc is directly referenced in the actual Boruto manga. That's why the manga's kind of borrowed on stuff that's happened in light novels. All that stuff is interconnected, and what you have to kind of look at here is you have room for potential in this aspect here to where Boruto finally gets answers about his Jougan eye. If that eye suddenly activates and it's in the presence of Eida, maybe Eida has information, maybe Amado, someone who is a walking encyclopedia of the Otsutsuki clan, maybe Amado has that information because the Jougan has been shown being able to access those Otsutsuki clan dimensions and portals. The fact that that is something that does have some ties to it right there, that could be a way for you to actually have Boruto traveling alongside Sasuke, and that actually gives people the chance to see Boruto and Sasuke embark on that time skip training as well. It also allows you to make up for the fact that Sasuke can no longer access those dimensions. You could use that potential as a way to actually get to that 10 tails. That is a problem they have to deal with. And then the other thing, it moves you away from having to actually rely on Amado too much when it comes to Amado building these devices, because they don't know whether or not they can trust the character of Amado. Now, one other thing that is important to actually look at here is you're also in a situation where when Boruto does pop back up, you have a situation where maybe Boruto can consciously start awakening that power right there. But I do think, in my opinion, we're at that point to where Toneri said the Jogon's time is coming. Toneri said that the time for harvest is almost here. That could have been reference to the fact that he knew that Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Urashiki are on the way, but that could also be something to where he said it's a long ways away. When Boruto was first interfered with by Toneri, we didn't have these Otsutsuki issues with Isshiki. We had the issue with the Otsutsuki trio that was coming to Earth. I don't think that that's necessarily who he was actually particularly worried about. I think that he knew that the Isshiki Otsutsuki threat was growing, and I think that when he says it was a ways away, I think he potentially saw what was going on with the character of Code, because Code is trying to do what Isshiki wanted, which was become an Otsutsuki god. I think that the Jogon was specifically meant for something like this. However, I want to know from you guys, how do you guys feel about this? What do you think about these thoughts? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.